Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky, joining you, as always, from my home studio right here in lovely downtown Ewing, New Jersey. Today, we're going to be discussing a number of Devils notes. Devils obviously off tonight and have the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday night. But today we're going to be kind of diving. Today's our Mailbag Monday, so it's kind of agenda free. I like to have a couple topics here and there, maybe off the top, just to get the conversation flowing and everything like that. And it's a nice little tie-in to our newsletter that we just started. I tweeted out the link just after 10 a.m. this morning, or a little bit before 10 a.m. this morning. If you subscribe to our newsletter and follow the link, scroll down to Speaking of the Devils and our little logo on there, you guys will be able to subscribe to that every Monday morning at 10 a.m. I deliver you guys to your inboxes 10 Inside Devils notes. Okay, so this week was very Jacob Markstrom dominated. And loyal listeners of the show, it might not come as a surprise, but we had another note in there about the Devils uniforms, and some confirmation there from Martin Brodeur in our interview with him last week. About just exactly what is coming. We can speculate on that and have some fun doing so today. But thank you all for tuning in, and let's kind of get in. Let's dive into these headlines here. So we're going to start. I'm going to just pull up the newsletter here. Not going to read it word for word, but it's going to let us guide kind of the show and where we go with it. We'll start with the big piece of news this week, which was Jacob Markstrom, right? Like that was the big piece of business the Devils got done. They signed him to a 2-year, $12 million contract. The new pieces of reporting that I unearthed the past couple of days for you guys is that he has a 20-team no trade clause. So at first I said it was a modified no move clause and didn't know the exact specifics. Well, we found the specifics. It's 20 teams in the first year. It shrinks to 5 teams the following year. So that's like it seems to be a little bit overkill, I guess, because it's like, okay, you signed him to a $6 million AAV and stuff like that. So like, what are we doing throwing out a big no trade clause like that? But it's just part of the negotiations, right? Like this side, one side wanted one thing, the other side wanted the other thing. And they had to do a little bit of compromise there. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Jacob Markstrom receiving this lengthy or long laundry list of a no trade clause there. The other piece of reporting that I have is that I think, okay, I don't know the exact number there, but from what I understand, that Jacob Markstrom wasn't pushing exactly for that Jake Allen type of contract where it was going to be like 5 years. I think that I think from what I heard, it was either 1 or 2 more years that he was pushing for there. Don't know the exact number again, but I know that he was only pushing for just a little bit more. So the Devils wound up getting the win there because they came away with a 2-year deal. And then the third piece of business before we start diving into your questions, which I hope you guys spam the comment section. Ask me any question you want about, how we solve the Devils' defensive lapses. Speculate on the uniforms. Speculate on Jacob Markstrom. What you guys think of that contract and everything like that. But again, this last piece of news is on those uniforms, which I just referenced there. You might have noticed, but we kind of like glossed over it in our interview with Brodeur last week. I slipped in there. I said, "Are you going to be designing the next uniform?" And I said, I was like, I think, from what I understand, that there's going to be one coming here soon, and there is a new one. And he confirmed outright that there will be a new uniform coming for the Devils. So the Devils will have a new alternate uniform coming. I think next year, and we'll have to see a couple things. A couple things I'm curious about. One, is this going to be a Devils venture or is this going to be a league-wide venture? That's the one thing I wonder about. Now, I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but Fanatics became the official, brand partner with the NHL just a couple years ago. Do they want to maybe do a league-wide initiative a la Adidas a couple years ago with the reverse retro? Do they want to start maybe their own little thing there where they do a league-wide kind of thing? So I wonder what happens there. The couple things that I do know is that Brodeur will not be designing this one. He designed the jersey, which is obviously going through its retirement right now. But It's one of those things that I'm just starting to wonder: is this going to be a league wide initiative, or is this going to be a Devils just a Devils design jersey? And what will they do? Will they stick? Because I know the jersey was really popular. People to this day still asking me what's going, or not the jersey. I was jersey became popular, but I was more referencing the Stadium Series. Are they going to go back to the Stadium Series? Are they going to go with an inverse of the Stadium Series? These are all questions that I wonder. Because it's like that was good for sales. I know people, I know Devils, employees that are still like, coming up to me and saying like, "Hey, like, how do I get a Stadium Series jersey?" Stuff like that. So, um, we will have to see what they end up doing. I just know that it would be a very, very popular decision if they wound up doing the Stadium Series or some sort of version of that. The other thing that I'm kind of curious about this year, and I might just do a story on this, the stripe. Okay, the stripe that the Devils wore during their Stanley Cup years. They should bring that back. That's just, I know that's a popular opinion, and but I just feel like the jersey has never felt. It, I've never grown accustomed to that. Like, it always kind of feels a little naked, right, without the stripe. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. What you guys think? Jersey suggestions? Any sort of alternate ideas that you guys might have? Do you want the Stadium Series jersey to return? Do you want it to? Do you want the stripe to return? Let me know in the comment section below, and we will dive in. But let's dive into these comment section in general right now. We start off here with Eric R. just says live. Mike D says, "Are we live? Are we live?" Always appreciate that. Amagi Legacy says, it's been said a million times, but a reverse of the recent Stadium Series is the way to go. I can't imagine it'll be anywhere near as controversial as the jersey. No, yeah, that would be a hit, I think. If you get a reverse of the Stadium Series, like have it be black, oh, I think that would be unbelievable. Didn't the Utica comments? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Utica comments. I keep saying comments because I'm thinking of comment section. The Utica Comets did something like that where they had like a U jersey where it was like, the great U, and it was like kind of a reverse of the Devils reverse retro. That looked really sharp. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past them to do that. But again, I wonder if it will be the Devils putting their full say in this. That's just, again, that's pure speculation, but I just wondered if Fanatics is going to be trying to do something like that, because they're so recent in their little contract here. Eric R said, "God, I wish I politely asked him to inquire about bringing the bottom stripe." Exactly, on the home and away sweaters. Yes, bring them back. I was looking at a vintage Devils picture the other day, or no, a couple weeks ago now in the press box, and it was just like, oh man, those look freaking sharp. Like, the Devils sweaters just don't, they just haven't looked quite right since they took those away. You don't mess with a perfect thing. I think the Devils do have a perfect, I think they have a near perfect logo. I think every branding wise, I think everything's pretty good. Bring back that bottom stripe, and you're golden there. But I don't know. Like, is that I don't think that's a controversial opinion by any means, but that to want to bring that back. Are there people that like having the kind of minimalist design there? Let me know what you guys think. Um, Evented says Vegas Golden Knights and LA Kings outlets have both mentioned there being some sort of our reverse retro 3.0 league wide thing. So I'm guessing it is that. There we go. And again, I'm just spitballing there. That's based on no prior knowledge. And I didn't even see those reports, but that's one of those things that I wondered about. So that's good. I mean, look, like you wonder what that will be. Like, will it be a exact reverse retro thing, or will it, where they're trying to tie in some of the past? I think I don't know if this is controversial or not, but like one of my least favorite Devils jerseys was that, like, what is it, the Colorado Rockies, the blue one. I just always thought it was so weird, like, to have that be the reverse retro. Like I just was never the biggest, like, it's like, who? I'm sure there are some Colorado, but I feel like Colorado got their team back. So it's like, what do you got to do? Why are we honoring the Colorado Rockies? I guess it's just a tie to their heritage, and that's fine. But it's, blue does not belong on a Devils sweater, in my opinion. So I never really liked that. So hopefully maybe they lean into what Evans logo is right here, which is like the little green in the Christmas jerseys. I always loved those. We'll see what happens there. Nico Frederico says, fun name, says, please, dear God, oh my goodness. He's not. He is not designing the new jerseys. He confirmed that on the on the show the other day. Which, if you guys have not tuned into that, please, please, please go. Be sure to tune in to our interview with Martin Brodeur. That was a lot of fun. And we're gonna have Don LaGreca on this Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. So you guys will be able to ask him questions as well, like we did with the Marty interview the other day. So be sure to tune into that as well because we're going to have a lot of fun with Don. Ari Green says, why is Palat staying in the top six? He's clearly holding back these lines. I don't disagree with you, Ari. He's been on a steep decline here in the past couple of weeks. He's a guy that look, if you're going to be making $6 million a year and you're going to be in that top six, you better have more points than your goalie. And right now, Andre Palat doesn't. So he doesn't belong anywhere near the top six right now. He has, there were times on that 8-game winning streak where I will concede that it worked. I think that he was creating, on the forecheck, creating opportunities, creating open space for Jack and Bratt there. But then it was just getting to a point where Jack and Bratt are almost playing keep away from him, right? It's getting to a point where their chemistry is so strong this year, and they're passing it back and forth to each other. And then, oh, by the way, the third stick that they want, the goal scorer to be, it ends up being Andre Palat. Arseny Gritsuk belongs to that line. If the Devils want to spark here, throw Arseny Gritsuk, who's been arguably one of their best players over the past couple games. I would say maybe their best player on that road trip there. Sans maybe Jacob Markstrom, who had an excellent game his last night out. Get him on the top six. Get him in that top on that top line and in the top six. He should not sniff the third line anymore because he looked excellent against the Anaheim Ducks the other day. Nico Frederico says, please retire those horrendous jerseys. I got some news for you, Nico. They're retired. They're retiring at the end of the year. So don't worry, pal. Justin Carpenter says it's going to be the NJ without the ring, like it is on the pants. Now that logo, that's an interesting point. That logo has been popping up quite a bit over the past couple of years. I remember that was like a big thing during like the playoffs too. I wonder if it is going to be that's a good one. And I think wouldn't that be technically the reverse of the reverse retros where it's just, without the ring. I wonder if that ends up being it. That would be good. Eric R says, I imagine it's a Devil's design to replace the jersey and make some merch money for them. I think the jersey kind of, let's say this. I think the jersey was its own little marketing kind of thing where they're able to have the hat, and that's just by by happenstance where that's able to happen because it was just such like a pun. It almost turned into a pun and kind of like a sideshow there. Yeah, fun sideshow. Like, don't get me wrong, I really like the hat and everything like that, but yeah, I mean, I would wonder if they would throw a new logo out there or something like that. But you can't tell me that if they threw that reverse of the Stadium Series jersey on a hat or something like that, I think that would be a big seller as well. Dennis says, is it possible Brown plays on Thursday? Not only is it possible, I think it's more likely than anything that he plays Thursday. Not really based on any sort of inside reporting or anything like that. That's just kind of a hunch, but I would not be surprised if he slotted back to the lineup because they just keep saying it's day to day, and this time I actually believe them. And in doing some inside reporting on that, I did hear that it's not that bad of an injury. There's nothing too concerning there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was back Thursday at all. Justin Carpenter says, I don't think it'll be black. Interesting. So are they going just back with the Stadium Series? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And Nico Frederico says it definitely should be black. So we'll see. Jay Snow brings up a point that we should really dive into here to get the jersey talk out of the way, even though these Mondays are a little bit more lax. The Devils defense looks awful right now. It sure does. Things collapsed ever since Brett Pesce went down. And there's an argument to be had that he's climbing up the ranks of the Devils, most valuable player out there. You see what happens when he leaves the lineup, how much their defensive structure kind of crumbles down. The defense has looked terrible. The blue line has looked terrible. Almost all their defense the other day came pretty much from just the forward group, right? So many defensive breakdowns, so many defensemen out of position. Look no further than that Beckett Seneca goal where Nemec and Chalowski are just, what are you guys doing there? Terrible breakdowns, and you just hope that Pesci's back as soon as humanly possible here. Um, and we have to shine the spotlight too on a guy that we've talked about the last number of streams, but let's really shine us put the microscope under Siegenthaler, who I think, and even I know that everybody's favorite Devils Twitter account, CJ, who I actually I love CJ. I think he does great stuff and he puts good stuff out there. I just know that Devils fans can get a little rage baited by him. But he put out some great stuff today that was just, it was the charts is showing the exact, the value and everything like that, or lack thereof, of Siegenthaler this year, and how much that's been going down. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up here as we speak. It's overall, just this is like game score and stuff like that, GAR, expected GAR, everything like that. It has been a downward spiral for Jonas Siegenthaler this year, and I think that can explain, that regression from him can explain a lot of what's going on with the Devils' defense, this year, because Siegenthaler goes down, the Devils clearly need more defensive defensemen. Brendan Dillon's looked great, and he's kind of filled that Siegenthaler role, so to speak. But it's like you need your guy, you need Siegenthaler to provide that great stay at home lockdown kind of play style, and he just hasn't provided that this year. So you're leaning heavily on Brendan Dillon, who's done excellent. And you're leaning on guys like Luke, guys like Nemec. You're leaning on Chalowski. You're leaning on some of these guys that defense the defensive zone is not their strong suit, right? That's not their not when you think of Shimon Nemec, you're not thinking of his defensive acumen. When you think of Luke Hughes, you're not thinking of his defensive acumen. You want him to grow to that, but that's just not what his game is right now. They're both more offensive people, offensive-minded players. Jonas Siegenthaler, he needs to step it up here. He needs to step it up because the Devils, they're lacking in their defensive defenseman right now, and they need their defensive defenseman besides just Brendan Dillon to finally step it up. It has been not great. CJ Cornacchio says, "Give me the give me the strike back, please. Hated when it was gone. Yes, totally agreed. Retro throwback, says Andrew Galore. Would love that. Again, just none of that Colorado Rockies crap. I just didn't really. I thought that was kind of a weird little initiative. Jay Snow says, adds, we have too many offensive D-men playing right now, and see that's exactly what I said. Yep, exactly. Summed it up way more succinct than I did, Jay Snow. Very good. Amagi Legacy said, talking, back to the jerseys, Utica Comets alternate is very similar concept. Yep. Look no further than your minor league affiliate and just copy that. Copy, paste, put your own logo on it, and that's fine. I think Devils fans would be really satisfied. And does theirs have the stripe on it? It might. I don't know. I haven't really seen it. Tom Fitzjesus says, I love the template of the original white jerseys. Those with black instead of green for the regular ways would be nice. Yes. No, it would. It would. Look, that's one of those things that, incorporate. Man, I don't know. I like those greens. I like the greens when they kind of incorporate that back into the throwback. So if you're gonna go, like, if you're gonna do like a reverse retro, my favorite one was the Kings from a couple years ago. I actually used to have like a hoodie that said like it was like the Kings purple ones. I loved that because it was like a perfect blend of like a jersey that we hadn't seen before, but also something that they kind of like concocted on their own. But also was a nod to two past jerseys. So I don't know what that would look like for the Devils. Maybe see a green jersey we haven't seen before or something like that. But because the Devils really just haven't changed up their logo much over the past couple of years. I don't know. So we'll have to see. Let's see. Nico Frederico says, I have a black starter jersey. Looks great. No need to reinvent the wheel. Totally agree, especially with this Devils logo, which is excellent. Jay Snow says, Saul James Nichols. Oh, I'm so sorry for you, Jay Snow. Oh, he said, I kid. He said, Saul James Nichols have an article about the Devils' interest in Ryan O'Reilly. Is that something that Fitz is actually interested in right now, or just a rumor? I think James's was based on, did some insider recently say that Ryan O'Reilly, like that the Predators were thinking about trading him or something like that, or they were fielding offers or something like that. They're listening, probably is what the verbiage was. I would imagine. I've long said that I think Ryan O'Reilly kind of belongs there in would be an excellent fit for the Devils. That'd be an ideal 3C candidate. If nothing else, if this road trip proved nothing else, the Devils need some more third center depth. They need some more center depth. Period. Luke Glendenning's kind of on the downslope right now. Lamico, I think, has been good, not great, but passable. In the past couple of games. Um, Ryan O'Reilly would be an awesome addition. That's a good 3C. That's a 3C that is on a team that can make a deep playoff run. Andrew Clore, reverse home black jersey with the red logo would be fire. I agree. Jay Snow says, my worry with the Devils is they become way too reliant on the rush. We need to create more offense off the cycle. Yes, they need to more offensive zone time. More offensive zone time indeed. It's really just, the past couple of games especially, it's just, they and their bread and butter is being an off the rush team, quick, skilled, fast kind of team, up tempo. But try to establish more structure in the ozone, and I think that things will look better and things will improve for this offense. Arthur says, "Have you heard of the updates on Glass?" I have not, but I will try to get an update for you guys tomorrow. It's just Wednesday. It's just been tough because I haven't been on the road trip, so it's just like you're not seeing the people that you would regularly talk to and stuff like that about stuff like this. And I, quite candidly, I don't know anybody in Glass's camp that I have to, get to know them at some sort of NHL event or something like that this year. But yeah, and like, again, Glass is like a player that I don't really know myself either. Like I met him once and we bonded about hats. We bonded about our love for hats. So had one conversation with the guy and then he got injured. So I will have to get to know him better. And maybe we'll get some more information. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll try to get you an update this week. Rick Roma says, what's wrong with Siegenthaler? He's been kind of bad. Could he be nursing something? I'm going to try to get to the bottom of that this week as well, because my big story to find out this week is what's going on defensively and try to, pulse the locker room, get the pulse of the locker room, see what, they think is the reason for, this steep decline. Obviously, Pesce is the glaring one, but they shouldn't be a Brett Pesce. Brett Pesce should not separate them from being a defense that we thought could not carry them, but would be a decent part in them going on a deep playoff run, potentially a Stanley Cup run, to looking like a team that should be in the draft lottery. Like that they should not be a Brett Pesce injury away from lottery contention. And that of course, the West Coast trip is hard, and the Devils still have an excellent record, and they'll be fine. But I'm more talking about the blue line. Like that should not collapse like that. I'm going to try to see if there's anything with Siegenthaler, if he's nursing anything or something like that. So that's a good question, suggestion, Rick. Moving on, Zach Chin says, am I the only one who would kill for an off-white jersey with the black and red accents and the logo colors inverted? That's an interesting design suggestion. I would have to see it kind of played out. I would have to see someone kind of like visualize that for me. But that would look nice. That would look really nice. I kind of like too, like I like when the Devils, I don't know how many times they've done this, but like this color, like this isn't white, this is like more of a cream. I like that. That's like a classic look for teams. Jay Snow says something looks off with Siegs. Doesn't look like the same guy. Sure doesn't. Nemec is just so up and down. Thank you. That's the one thing with Nemec that's been so frustrating this year is that one game, and he'll go through stretches where he puts up points and that's fine. And then one game he'll look excellent. And it's like, oh, we can't trade this guy. And then the next game, it's like, oh my gosh, he makes decisions that it's like, okay, dude, you have to go watch from the press box next game because this is getting so head scratching. Your decision making, that awful pass that was intercepted. The intended player was Jack. Passes it, seam pass through the defensive zone. Devils were in the defensive zone. Intercepted, I think, by Kreider, and Kreider nearly scores there. An easy opportunity that Nemec just said, "Here, take." You can't have that. So we got to see what's going on with Nemec too, because he's not really taking advantage of his opportunity. Jay Snow again adds, the scoring has just been not too good at 5-on-5 again. Yep. Especially this last trip, that was ugly. I'll never understand the Nemec pick at 2. Logan Cooley. That's it's you're regretting that now. You're regretting that now. That's right now, as of right now, you're regretting that. Let's see if Nemitz can turn it around. But right as of right now, start of this season and the beginning of his career, defensemen, usually take a little longer to develop, and that's fine. But things do not look great. Just too up and down. Too up and down. Can't be a Jekyll and Hyde type player. Jay Snow says Siegs is good year, bad year. I guess you're talking about he kind of goes year to year, maybe fluctuates a little bit. Yeah. Zach Chin reiterates the point we just said. I'm still upset that we drafted Nemec over Logan Cooley. Right now, that looks like a sure mistake. Yep. I wanted Cooley on draft night. Could you imagine this team down the middle with Cooley? Yeah, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely insane. And maybe you'd have to have somebody like would you have to have Jack move to wing there to get more of an offensive pop to shore up the top six, because one of those guys wouldn't want to go to 3C or whatever. But yeah, that would be freaking ridiculous if they had Logan Cooley on this team. Could you imagine that? Nico, Jack, and Cooley down the middle would be unbelievable. Rick Roma says, I like Keefe and Shaw, but those two have to take a hit with all these D-men being out of position every game. If these guys keep making mistakes, find some guys that won't. I'm looking at you, Nemitz. Again, you can't have Brett Pesce go down and that completely thwart off your entire defensive structure. The coaches have to get in the lab and figure something out there, because this has just not looked great over this road trip. We'll see how they do against this competition this week. The Devils have a bunch of tough games this week, and they have some time off where they can kind of get back in the lab and figure it out there. Maybe tomorrow, because the Devils are off from practice tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow ends up being like a nice little regroup day, and the coaching staff can get in the room and try to figure out what the heck's going on. But yeah, it's looked ugly. It looked ugly there, and it shouldn't look this ugly with just one player going down in the blue line. Patrick O'Neill says, Chalowski is not good. Might as well just let KC try to work and figure it out. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. It is. What's the value there? What's the value with that Chalowski's going to add? I think that he had a decent game against LA. Some bright spots there. He looked terrible against Anaheim. So out of position. You might as well see. Casey's the bigger ceiling guy. Maybe they don't want to showcase Casey because they know that he's just kind of coming in, and he had an ugly game against Colorado. And I think, was it San Jose that he was benched for? I forget. Maybe they don't want to take his trade value. I don't know. We'll see. But he is definitely still coming back from injury as well. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Whoa. Gerald York says Casey first and Palat for O'Reilly. I don't know, man. That's a pretty steep price. Gerald. But I guess you would have to attach maybe a first to give up O'Reilly to get Palat off your books. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I don't know if O'Reilly would necessarily be the move there, because I think Casey has a lot of value to where it's like, you could probably do just KC and Palat, for O'Reilly. I think you could probably even get more, something like that. I don't know. Kind of deducing league values is hard, because some trades it's like, oh, I could have sworn that guy would have gone for a first, then he winds up going for like a fourth. You see that more in like the NFL, but like the NHL, I feel like it kind of happens too. Josh Langer, my man, says Novo always thought it would be cool to see a Scouts or Rockies replica throwback jersey, same ones in the 70s. But just in today's game. Not sure if devs own the rights for those logos, though. That's a good question. I have to ask about that. That's a really good question. I imagine they do in some, shape or form, because they had the, because they kind of did the homage to that. So they at least own the colors. Because I learned doing this YouTube show, like, there's a lot of like weird copyright stuff with even colors. So I don't know, because they are the franchise. So I don't think that they didn't have to give. There's no Kansas City franchise, and they certainly didn't give the history of the Rockies to the Avalanche. So that's an interesting question. But I would, the scout stuff, I know that there's like a replica or like a mock-up of like a Scouts jersey that has like the Jersey Devil on it. That is a freaking sick jersey. I've seen that kind of done. I think people even have like mock-ups of that, like made in real life. I feel like I've seen that around the rock. That would be cool. That would be freaking cool. I don't know if that would happen though. Jay Snow says, I don't know if Shaw's system was all about stick work, but they never take the body, and they take way too many penalties. 100% Jay Snow, way too many penalties. I'm surprised they're not, further up there, maybe the board. I think there's a better stat. Daniel Amoya showed me recently. There's a better stat to show like how many. It's like times shorthanded per game, but like I haven't been able to find it since. So Danny, if you're listening, send me that link. But totally agree with you. Is that they never take the body. It's a lot of risk there. You see a lot of tripping penalties too because it's a lot of stick work, and I like seeing sometimes an active stick, and that's fine. It's good. That's good, like tenacious hockey, but work the body as well. You got some guys that have, you got some bodies there, so work them. Zach Chin says for the new alt jersey, can we also change the number font? Would love to see college block numbers like the Jets third jersey. That would be awesome. Nice little throwback too. I like that a lot. Gerald York says Gritsuk, O'Reilly, Brown would dominate. It sure would. How great would O'Reilly be on this team? Oh my gosh, I can see him now. Like that. That would be a great addition. What's Nashville's record? I have the standings pulled up here. Let's see. Nashville is 5-6-2, so they kind of suck. So maybe they'll be sellers at the deadline. And I know that Fitz has a lot of relationships there. Fitz is kind of they have an open line there. They made the Hall trade. They made that they made that one deal at the draft a couple years ago. Fitz is very close with Barry Trotz. Maybe that ends up being a trade partner this year. Jay Snow says, I don't trust Fitz to make a move early. I wonder, man. I wonder because the Devils in that back end right now, things are not looking good. So, you might need another defensive defenseman in here. So I don't know. Will they try to work the market there? Stephen Engel says, team badly misses Brown, Glass, Covey, and Pesci. Goes without saying. No doubt. 100%. Jay Snow says they need Covey back. You need those big shutdown D-men back there. Kovacevic coming back is going to change a lot in this lineup, and maybe that'll even if Siegenthaler that gives him kind of a boost too. You need that because he's been terrible this year, and it's so weird. CJ, again, I'm going to reference CJ's tweet today too. He mentions there that this isn't a new pair. Like Dougie and Siegenthaler have worked together in the past. That was the 22-23 pair. That was supposed to be the top pair for the Devils for a number of years here. And it's just been it's not been great. He's been terrible this year. Siegenthaler especially. Maybe once Kovacevic comes back, he sees a boom there, but it's been really bad. Justin Carpenter says, why is Utica so terrible? It's a good question. They were supposed to be really good this year. I think Utica might be bad because you have a lot of players that you thought would be excellent for you this year, Aminaho and Shane Lachance, and they are just not putting up any points right now. And they have been off to a bad start. I give Lachance more of a pass there because Lachance is, he's a guy that was touted as kind of just like a fourth liner that you kind of plug and play, and there was no real like this is a guy that got in like a nothing trade over the summer and stuff like that. So it's like, you shouldn't have major sky high expectations for him this year, but internally the Devils did, and he had such a great rookie showcase for the Devils this year. That's like, come on, man! Like you thought that you would get a lot more stuff out of these guys, and you're just not. I haven't watched Utica that much this year, so I can't say for sure, but that seems to be the 10,000-foot angle on it, at least. Rick Roma says, not to make excuses, but do you think the team is a little tired after 8 games and 13 nights? 100%. And travel, 100%. Tired players seem to make mental mistakes, and there are a ton of them lately. Yeah, that mixed with the injuries, mixed with the West Coast trip already being kind of a crapshoot for the Devils in years past. No surprise that you're seeing kind of a cold stretch here. It was the perfect storm for the Devils to kind of go on a little cold spell there. Even if they were super hot. That's a good point. Moving on. Stephen Engel says Cotter has been useless so far. He's been such a disappointment to me too. I thought that this was a player that, and I think you see it in spurts. You see some of that skill pop out. You see some of the, nastiness there. But Cotter needs to lean into who he is. Lean into some of that nastiness. Be a tenacious, aggressive, gritty sandpaper fourth line guy. And be a kind of a demon to play against. That's the kind of player the Devils need him to be. Just feels like he's trying to do a little too much. Jay Snow says the problem is Luke is still good for a few mistakes a game. Totally agreed. Dougie's more of an offensive D-man. Siegs is struggling, and Nemec is young and inconsistent. That totally sums up the Devils' defensive struggles right now, mixed with the Pesci injury, and you get a perfect storm for breakdowns. Steven Engel says we don't even know what Dadonov is yet. Yeah, that's the funny thing. Like Dadonov has only played one game for this lineup, so it's like and granted he did impress in camp so much so that they put him on the top line there. We'll see what he is once they kind of get him back in the fold here. We'll get an update on him this week too. We'll try to. Gerald York says Nemec is the new Severson. I've seen that comparison quite a bit lately. Jay Snow says Dylan's been a stud. He has been excellent this year. He has been like this is a. I didn't know what to expect from Dylan, and only I'm kind of basing this. I watched several games last year that and it did my deep dive over the summer once I knew I was coming back to covering the team. But everybody was kind of down on Dylan, and him suffering the injury last year, the really terrible injury he suffered. You never knew what kind of player he was coming back as, and he has come back driven. He's come back motivated. This is a guy that's has been off to an excellent. He's taken that skill from Siegenthaler. He is what Siegenthaler should be right now. Really intelligent player. Jay Snow says Dadonov's not a first-time player. Agreed. That was just kind of circumstantial. They needed that. Devils need a top six wing bad. They need a scoring wing really bad. Zach Chin responding to Stephen Engels says Cotter needs to stop getting stuck behind the goal line. It's led to too many turnovers, and those moments almost always come after we started establishing zone time. Yeah, when I say that Cotter's trying to do too much, it's stuff like that I'm referencing. That's exactly what it is, and Jay Snow adds to it right there. Need to see more from Cotter there. Direwolf says Dylan's been our best D-man. Losing Pesci and Covey shouldn't make the rest of the guys fall apart. System breakdowns have been inexcusable. They sure have. Direwolf. Again, that's my big project this week is deep diving what exactly is leading to all of this. Getting the players kind of take on all this. So we'll post the locker room tomorrow or Wednesday. They're not skating tomorrow, and see what some of these coaches think of it too. Dylan will be great to talk to because A, he's doing excellent right now, and B, he's a good talker, and C, he can give, he's pretty candid too. Yeah, he does have a lot of skill. I think you're talking about Cotter. It's just, it's like he's kind of a weird player where he's like he has the body and the mindset. I feel like of a bottom six, fourth line guy. He should be your perfect fourth line player, but it's like makes too many mental mistakes where he's almost trying to be kind of a top sixer. Where it's interesting. Zach Chin says, can you also check in on why the faceoff percentage has been terrible so far this year? Oh, it was so bad. How about that first period? It was like the Ducks seemingly won so many faceoffs in a row there. That is a great question to ask too. That is something that the Devils need to work on this year is improving on the faceoff dot. Maybe they try to get someone else on the faceoff dot. I'm not sure I imagine Ryan O'Reilly's a good faceoff man because he's a veteran center who's been doing it for years. But maybe that could that's an acquisition that could help in that regard too. But yeah, Devils are really really bad in that department this year. Some Central Jersey talk. I'm a Central Jersey boy too. I live in Ewing. If you consider that Central, I do. Eric R says, when do we start talking about Fitz's terrible record drafting in the first round? Apart from Luke, it's been dreadful unless Dawson keeps his current level, which remains to be seen. I think we've referenced it a couple times. And look, drafting is hard in the NHL. I think you see a lot of crapshoot drafts across the league, but you want to. Then you look at a team like Dallas or a team like Carolina, where it's like they seemingly hit on every pick, no matter the round, and it's like, come on, why did we pick Chase Stillman over Stankoven, right? Like why did we do that? Those are the kind of mistakes where it gets to be a little glaring, and it's like, do you have to start, like poking around and seeing what you can tweak with the scouting department and how they kind of operate things, because it definitely has not been the prettiest. I will agree with you there. Jay Snow says Trotz wanted a ridiculous haul for O'Reilly at last year's deadline. I'm getting concerned that these GMs are just getting a bit too greedy. So we saw the slow summer, and that's what I heard all summer, is that like these GMs were just trying to extort teams, right? I wonder if we won't see that flurry of trades until the trade deadline. Like I thought it might come early in the season just because it was such an inactive summer. But now I'm like, I think these teams that suck are going to be back against the wall to the point where they're like, all right, fine, we'll trade you Ryan O'Reilly for, second or something like that. We will see. Jay Snow says this is where not getting a top 6 winger or a 3C is starting to show. Again, yeah, that was like one of the first questions I asked Fitzgerald at the training camp press conference, where I was just, I was like what's to address the holes in this lineup, and he just didn't seem to think there were many holes. And on the winning streak, that looked great. Like that it looked right, but now you're starting to see kind of the glaring effects, like you said, of not getting guys like that. Is O'Reilly in his mid to late 30s? Yes, he is 35, as Gerald York points out here, or he's going to be 35 in February. But who cares? He's still a really, really good player. Stephen Engel says if we want to get rid of Plot, we're going to have to get a third team involved to eat his salary. It's so funny because I always felt like the Ducks for years were like that team that everyone was like, oh, just trade Plot to Anaheim, and now they're good and now they beat you. So it's like they look good. Yeah, you probably would have to do that. Fitz never seems to pull the trigger before the deadline. He likes building the teams in the offseason. That's something that he's been, known for in the past. We'll see what ends up happening. I mean, look, like I think if he doesn't end up doing that, it's probably. I will say this, like I don't think Fitzgerald is just sitting around twiddling his thumbs. He's definitely not doing that. Like he's making calls. He's active on in working the phones and everything like that. It takes two to tango in this league, and I'll be honest, like I poked around kind of the league, trying to get the polls because I thought the same thing. I was like, come on, Fitz, like do something with this team, and it's like no, like to his credit, like teams are just wanting stuff that we're, it's like okay, like we should be able to get Quinn for that package. It's ridiculous. Um, Josh Langer says, "Do you think the Devils should relocate to the hustling, bustling downtown of Ewing, New Jersey?" I wish, but I'll have to settle for that new Trenton team, which is like 5 minutes away from my house, so that's great. Jay Snow says Fitz love to sit back and wait. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also think that I mean, the Timo trade was before the deadline, so it's like we'll see. Like I don't. Again, I think he does work the phones more than fans truly think. Rick Roma says Trotz is going to ask for Casey Nemitz and 2 firsts for O'Reilly. He's a terrible GM and completely unreasonable, especially when it comes to Fitz for some reason. I talked to Trotz a couple years ago, and that was definitely kind of the vibe that I got. Not that he's terrible GM. I'm not going to go that far, but hasn't had much success in Nashville so far, and it definitely was one of those GMs that I reference and say when I say that GMs want to get extortion level prices for assets that are not that great. Stephen Engel says Trotz and Fitz are either friends or have had interaction. They are very close, very, very close. Trotz was his first coach, or he was the first coach of the Predators. Yeah, him and Brunette, they all go back to the Preds days. Even like Frosty, the equipment guy for the Devils. J Pal 319. Unfortunately, a name like Lenny Amenaho passes the name test insanely hard. I'll never be out on him. Couldn't have said it better myself there, J Pal. With things feeling down, Dev's still tied for first conference and leading the Metro. Let's see how November treats us. Hopefully get a few healthy guys back. Yeah, look, once the healthy players come back, the Devils should be on a roll again. I completely stand by that statement. Guys, they still have 9 wins. They're still 9-4. If we asked you, would you take a 9-4 start before the season, you would say hell yes. Especially with this schedule that we all knew on paper looked insanely difficult. The Devils ran through it, right? Like it'll be fine. They still have a lot of wins. Things are going to be fine. I understand the concerns defensively. Believe me, we've talked about that a lot in this show, and I'm not giving them a pass there. They need to figure that out. But at the end of the day, they still do have 9 wins. Stephen Engel says Haminaho still hasn't done. I never know if I can curse on here, but I did. I guess I did say dicks last night, so I guess I can. Haminaho hasn't done shit in Utica, and for some reason Squires is not even in the NHL. Wow. Yeah. No. Exactly. I think I saw that. I saw that last week, and that just kind of didn't register with me. It's like, what is he doing? What is he doing down there? So that needs to be a call up. He should not be an Adirondack. Let's see. It's not that they're losing, it's the way they look right now. It's really hard to watch. Exactly what I just said. It's like the defensive breakdowns. It looks like a meltdown there in the defensive zone. That's not what you want to see. Let's see. Gerald, we're going to take a couple more here, then we're going to wrap up. O'Reilly would be Gerald York says O'Reilly would be a perfect fit for this team. He would solve so many issues for the younger fans who haven't seen him play much. He's an unbelievable two-way hockey player. Yeah, to me it's the playoff acumen there. That like I think he would be excellent for this team, man. Oh my gosh, before he went to the Leafs, I was like, man, he was the guy that I think the Devils should have went after. It would have been awesome. Let's see, but I guess they probably had Eric Holla back then, so it kind of and he was actually good that year. So Squires is thin. He's had bulk. Yeah, he's always a pretty small guy too. Rasmus Anderson, probably the best available at the deadline. Another right shot. Yeah, that's the problem. Every guy that I've kind of looked at the deadline, it's like, all right, they're because you always look to Calgary, and obviously he's on Calgary, so you know that. So it's like, they're going to be a fire sale team. They're going to be a fire sale candidate. Like, what are these other teams you can poach after? Like. I mean, every time the Blues lose, the Blues have lost 7 in a row. Like maybe go poach someone for the Blues. Go poach Kyrou away from the Blues. Look to the Flames. Look to the Canucks. Look to that Metro. That Atlantic is actually not that bad. These teams are that's a pretty tight division right now. Let's see. Sorry. Let's see. Moving on here, and then we'll take just like one or two more. We'll take 2 more. But if we want to win now, Fitz will eventually need to push the chips on the table to get it done. Agreed. There's way too many chips that the Devils have at their disposal. It's time to go all in. It's time to go all in. They talk about whenever this Markstrom deal happened, the big thing that was leaking out was that this contention window. The contention window is now. Okay, so you have 2 years. Make it now. Make that contention window now. Push all those chips in. There's no need for you to hang on to Seamus Casey if you don't see a long-term future for him on that right side. Ditto for Simone Nemeth. The future is now, so go push the chips in. There's only so many years the Devils can coast by on this excuse of, oh, well, they have so many, great value contracts. They have all these guys locked up to such great valuable deals. It's like, no, at some point you have to capitalize on that. So go capitalize on that. Go do it this year. Go because this team at its base can be a cup contender now. Okay. Add supplementary pieces that these other teams do, that Vegas does every year, that Florida does every year, and go lean into it. Florida still has, assets and stuff like that, and they're built for the future. You could do the same thing. You shouldn't be trying to do this based on like, oh, well, our window is this long. No. Go all in now. That's where I'll end the stream today, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be going live. We'll be going live Wednesday with Don LaGreca at 11:30. I had to see what time practice is and everything like that, so might be a slight hiccup in plans there, but we're going to try to make it done at 11:30 as much as possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.